welcome everybody to today's webinar, and thanks for joining myself and Brandon today. And I suspect that we probably have met most of you in our previous webinar, which was all around, from OKRs to outcomes. However, some of you might be new, so if you are, welcome aboard. My name is Clayton, and I'm from Elegance Group, and we are specialists in workflow management. And I'm joined here today by Brandon from Asana. So if you were with us for the last session, you'll remember that it was all about what is the importance about closing the visibility gap when it comes to strategy and execution, specifically why leaders lose sight of how the work happening on a day-to-day actually ladders up to the strategy, and what the disconnect costs an organization as a whole when nobody actually catches that early. So that was all the theory, and today is all about seeing it in practice. So Brandon's going to show you what that actually looks like, solved within Asana. And so this isn't like a feature dump, and it's not a how-to guide. Think of it more as a walkthrough, how a goal cascades from company level all the way down to individual tasks, and just importantly, how that visibility, flows back up again. So I would like to encourage all of you to pop questions into the chat. We have set aside a Q&A at the end if we then jump into those questions. And if you've also got anything else, so Brandon's going to be obviously sharing his screen. So if you need him to zoom in, just pop that into the chat as well, just so we can make sure that you guys are all on board. Let us know what's going on. Okay. Yeah, so with that, Brandon, I'm going to hand over to you for a quick intro, and then let's jump straight into it.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Clayton. So hi, everyone. Brandon here again from Asana. I'm a solutions engineer here, and my role again is to be that individual to today showcase a bit of Asana and how we can possibly leverage OKRs within our organization. And so what I'll do here is I'm going to show my screen here to just go through a quick couple slides to talk through about what Asana is, why we exist, and how our infrastructure works. And then we're going to jump straight into the product to really go through how OKRs can supercharge your organization. Cool. So first up, what is Asana? Why do we exist? What are we here for? And I think it's easiest way to kind of describe it is in this one simple statement. Why we exist here is to just provide clarity of who's doing what by when, how, and why. We do this through multiple capabilities, but rather than keeping them in separate products, separate tools, we believe that this is all ties together within the category of work management. And so work should truly kind of live within one singular system. And how we do this is through something called the work graph. The work graph is our infrastructure. It's represented in this diagram that you see here. It's typically not the easiest thing to showcase, but what I'm going to try to do here is to get everyone in this room excited about it. Because the beauty of the work graph is to really showcase how work is truly interconnected. Work also does not normally live within silos as well, meaning IT does not only work with IT team, comm does not only work with the comms team, operation doesn't only work with the operation team, but every team is going to be serving another team. Work and individuals here are going to be collaborating with one another. And that's what this work graph here is truly trying to showcase, where departments will work together. And as an organization, we would start at the top with our organization's mission statement. Why are we here? What are we working towards? Then the senior leadership would then develop the goals of the organization. So really setting out the direction. What are we trying to achieve for the year? And how are we going to get there? That's then going to be powered by the portfolio capabilities, which kind of aggregates all the relevant project work that we would have. And in saying the word project work, that implies we will then have projects at the base to showcase what are we doing at the ground to ensure that, that we're achieving our goals. And of course, we break down those projects into individual tasks for the actionable bite-sized items. So all of this here again come together is that work graph. And you'll notice within this diagram here, there's a lot of lines that kind of like extends from the bottom to the top and vice versa. And the reason for that is because work is always going to be interconnected. meaning the work that you do at the bottom should easily flow to the top. So whether you're an individual contributor or a C-level exec, we want to make sure that the changes that you make within the product flows to the bottom, and the work that happens at the bottom flows to the top, which really ties into that concept that we discussed during our last session, where when we discussed OKRs, is it just set at the senior leadership level and then we forget about it? No, that's not the case. We see OKRs are set at the top, it flows to the bottom, and the individual contributors at the bottom would set their own KRs. They would set their own goals that they would want to achieve and how they're going to get to that top level goal. And to tie it all together as well, because we're in a world of AI actually easily flows into this infrastructure as well, because the concept of AI, right, is going to be around aggregating the data. It's having the ability to see what's happening on the ground and tying it to the larger goals at the top. So rather than the human having to put all this work together and do a bit of a write-up on where the work is at, AI will naturally flow into this infrastructure and be able to pull that information for you, which I'll be able to showcase today. But that's enough for the slides for today. I just want to really showcase to you what this infrastructure would look like. And what we're going to do now is jump straight into the demonstration. Cool. So what we have here is an organization called the Luminary Marketing Company. The Luminary Marketing Company here, they have a mission statement. Their mission is to make ambitious brands impossible to ignore through measurable strategy, creativity that moves people, and trust. And how this organization works is, rather than being in kind of an old school way of working, where typically speaking, when people talk about goals in the past, they set up the goals at the beginning of the fiscal year. They then go ahead and have all these giant presentations to say, this is what we're going to achieve as an organization for the fiscal year in a PowerPoint. And then once presented, we don't talk about it until the end of the year. And that typically causes a bit of concern, because that means goals might not necessarily be front and center, but just a bit of theatrics. So what we want to do here with Asana is that we want to make sure that goals is going to be front and center for everyone in the organization. It's not just going to be relevant for the C-level execs, but it's also going to be relevant to the individual contributors. And you'll see, or you would have seen within the slides earlier, because goals were at the top, that meant every piece of work is going to be connected to those goals. But from this view here, for Luminary Marketing Company, you'll be able to see what are our top line objectives. This is going to be a view that's available for everyone in the organization. These are going to be the public facing goals that we have. And you'll see very clearly from 1 to 5, what are we hoping to achieve? What exactly is the progression rate, and where things are kind of flowing towards. So it's not just about what we defined as success at the top, which is, again, the direction of the organization. What are we trying to achieve for the year? But now we can see the how we're going to get there. You're going to see the interconnectedness of, for us to try to become the more cited and sought after marketing thought leader in our market, how are we going to get there? You'll see the breakdown of these 5 key results that we would have set out to achieve. And you can even then zoom in a bit more and take a look at what are the projects that's going to be supporting that key result as well. Cool. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump straight into that objective at the top, because this view right here for the strategy map, it's going to be great visually, but there's going to be more underlying information in the back end. And if I click into this goal here, you'll see the definition of success. Are we currently on track, at risk, or off track? And you'll even see a bit of a progress bar. Are we kind of going in the right direction, or are we kind of slumping back slightly? And as we begin to scroll down even more, similar to what we saw in the previous view, we're going to see the how we're getting there. We're going to see, again, those connected sub goals. And then easily I can navigate to those sub goals from this view here. And I think this is going to be the perfect goal for us to showcase today, where we want to kind of be very measurable with our KR setting. We want to ensure that it's going to be descriptive. We also want to ensure that we're answering that question that we talked about earlier of why does Asana exist, of the who's doing what by when, how, and why. And so this goal right here is to help answer that, where we have James here, who's in charge of the goal. So James is going to be in charge of ensuring that this goal is going to succeed, and do whatever it takes to ensure that this succeeds. We have the time period of when this is going to be completed by. We even go down to the bottom here, we define again what success is. So where we can say right off the bat, if we complete the 5 projects or 5 high impact thought leadership projects, that is going to be successful, and we're currently at 0. But we're at the beginning of the fiscal year, so that's totally fine. But as we're going to scroll down to the bottom, you'll see we have a description field, and we can easily connect it to other sub goals. But the beauty of this view here is if you're not comfortable creating your own goals, maybe this is a very new exercise for you, this isn't something that you've done before in the past, simply give it a title, provide what you want as an objective, just input what you know so far as a direction of your goal. And then you can easily then leverage this AI capability here, which will convert your goal into a SMART goal. It'll go ahead and provide tips and tricks to ensure that you are going to have a well built out goal. And I think what's going to be important here is that these goals here are, yes, they're going to be for you, or they're going to be for the company, but they're also we're going to expand it for that transparency piece. We want to make sure people understand why this goal exists and what exactly is the success criteria. And so because of Asana's AI capability, we understand that we understand how a good goal should look. This is going to be that perfect guidance for you to kind of say, here's a quick draft on what you can use as a definition of success. Go ahead and paste that into the description field so that other people can see where your head's at when you came up with this definition. So we want to really provide the context. I'll go ahead and actually select the next suggestion as well. And a next suggestion here is to kind of then indicate, other than the definition of success, why this goal matters in the first place. How did we come up with this goal? We want to make sure, similar to what we talked about during the previous session, is we want to make sure that the goals that we set out to achieve are achievable. They're believable. We don't want to scare anyone off when we first create the goals, and providing context is going to help inspire people. It's going to help people see that this is a realistic opportunity, that it's not a goal that someone just made up out of thin air because it sounded great. And so I'll use this as a advice as well. I'll dismiss that. And so just like that, we built out a fleshed out goal. It's going to have, again, definition of success, where we have all 5 projects established is going to be defined as success. Anything less than 5, we're going to consider it a partial completion. And then we've also described why this goal matters. And then as we can scroll all the way to the bottom now, you'll also see some of the related works that we have. I'm not going to go too much into this because this will actually take me into my next session around, or our next section around, the portfolio component, where the goals here at the moment is to then showcase where we're currently at again and what that measure of success is. Now we're going to move away from that senior leadership view to now what exactly is management looking at, and also what are the individual contributors looking at. And to do that, I'm simply going to go ahead and go into the new tab here of strategic marketing. So this view right here, we're now going down one level. If I show you the work graph once more, we were at the goals piece. We're now going down a level to that portfolio piece. So in this portfolio view, this is going to encase all the relevant projects that my department is going to be working on. So the 2026 strategic marketing department, this is going to be the hub for all projects that we are actively working on. You'll see we're categorizing the work so that it's going to be relevant to the audience. I like to always say, make sure whenever you're building out a view, consider your audience. Make sure that it's 50 to 80% relevant to them. So they're not spending so much time looking for the work, but everything they see is going to be right in front of them, or what they need to see is right in front of them. And so when you scroll down, you'll see all the relevant projects. When you scroll to the right-hand side, you can see how we're progressing. Are we on track, at risk, or off track? If we're measuring success by milestone or task progression, it's all there. If we're keeping track of budget, it'll be there. But what I want to highlight here, however, in this portfolio view is going to be the connected goals tab, where this view here isn't just a manual input. You're just manually having to connect where the goals are at to the projects, but it's all, again, interconnected. Where if I go ahead and click into this, it's not just plain text, but it's a direct link to the goals we set out to achieve at the top. We want to make this as easy as possible for you to associate your work to the KRs or to the objectives that the company has set out to achieve, so that you're not spending so much time having to organize the work yourself. We simply, if we see an associated goal that, let's say, Luminary Look should be a part of, you can search for it, you can type it out, and then eventually you can click into it. So let's say for AI adoption rate, for instance, if there's a bit of relevance to that, this project is now directly connected to that goal. But I'll go ahead and remove that for now. But that's going to be the power of this view, where you can see where the work is all interconnected. What we can also do is go ahead and jump straight to the project itself. I think this is probably going to be the most important for the individual contributors, where they might not necessarily care too much about all the side projects that their teammates are working on. They just want to care more about their own work. They can still utilize the strategic view, but they can leverage the My Work view as well to say, showcase to me all the projects that I currently own. So Alan Wang here, that's the profile that I'm currently in. I have 6 projects under my belt, and I want to just work on the projects that I'm going to be working on. So I'm going to go ahead and go into one of the projects that I own, Luminary Look, and this is then going to help showcase to you all the relevant tasks that that this project is going to need to complete to ensure the overall completion of this project. So this is going to be pretty awesome because it's now fairly organized. You can see exactly what individuals assigned to what task. You can see the custom fields, the categories that these projects are going to be listed as. And what's awesome here is that I can, as we kind of start marking some of these tasks as completes, these are now data points in the system that's being marked as complete. These are actioned items. This is context. This is going to be great because as an IC, I just need to ensure that my work is progressing. I am completing the work that I'm doing. And then what's going to be cool here is I can then set a status update. As a project owner, I'm going to go ahead and say, things are looking great for the Luminary Look. I'm going to mark this as on track, and I can give it a title. I can do a manual update, or I can leverage AI, where AI here is going to be pretty awesome because I can easily say, I know as a project owner, my project's on track, but let's give it a look back period of what's happened since the last week. Sections should include summary, risk, next steps, and highlights. So similar to how you're using your preferred LLM, you simply give it some guidance, but rather than searching for the internet to see how the work is progressing or how your work is progressing, we use your project as the data set. So we're not going to hallucinate or anything. It's simply reading through the changes that's happened within the project, whether that be task completions, comments being left behind, dates being moved out, or unrealistic due dates being set. That's what this AI capability is really going to draw upon. And then what it's going to do next is perform an output. So that means we're going to have very consistent status updates being set for all the projects. If you're a department that has 50 or 100 projects being set, that's typically a lot of time being spent on creating status updates. And so what Asana allows for you here is to really shorten that period. Which will then generate more data points. So this AI component here should be done fairly soon. And once it does output the status update, you'll see right here, it included all those points I wanted to include. Summary, risks, next steps, etc. As a subject matter expert or the project owner, I can make any modifications as needed, shorten it, elongate it, add some highlights if needed as well. But what I'm going to do, everything looks great. I'm going to mark as complete, hit post. And actually, I'm going to do one better. I'm also going to mark this as complete for now. And the reason why I want to do this is because let's say I progress the work forward. I, again, only care about how my project is currently progressing. I mark this as complete. But because the work graph showcases that everything is interconnected, by me marking this project as complete, if I go back to marketing strategic initiative, the work is interconnected. The work has now showcased as well that this project is marked as complete in the portfolio. And that'll then notify people that, hey, one of our key projects is done. And because it showcases as well that it's connected to this parent goal here of complete 5 high impact thought leadership projects. If we now go back into this portfolio or this goal here, and you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see this has now been marked as complete as well. So for me, as now a senior level exec, if I need to perform, let's say, weekly or quarterly status updates on how our goals are progressing, similar to what an IC had just done at that project level, the C-level exec or the person who owns this goal here can also do the same, where they can easily go select on the status update view, and they can say define as on track, at risk, or off track. They can change the progression now from 0 projects being completed to now 1 project that's complete. I'm not going to leverage the AI capability again, but it's definitely possible. But now I hit that post button and you'll see this has also been labeled as on track. This update has now been switched over from 0 to 1, and the completion rate is now we're 20% progressing. So if this was posted on another day, you'll see kind of that elevation in terms of status updates. But that's going to be the beauty of Asana, right? Where whether work is living at that IC level and you're on the ground, as you kind of mark things as complete, as you're progressing the work on the ground, it's going to ladder itself up all the way to that parent goal capability. So that's truly, I think, the beauty of Asana, again, that interconnectedness, that work graph style of work. And then what's also going to be awesome is, again, as we're kind of working our way down from goals, down to projects and tasks, and back up to goals, we also have, again, that AI component as well, that AI overlay. So if I were to then go into Luminary Goals Analyst, I created myself a teammate. A teammate here is going to be awesome because what it allows for me to do is I can interact with this powerful teammate to say to Luminary Goals Analyst, hey, I want you to do a bit of a gap analysis on my goals. Based off of that 2026 strategic marketing portfolio, where every single project here is already tied and connected to a goal, I want you to analyze for gaps now. What are some goals that my department may not be supporting? There were 5 high-level objectives, and each objective had 5 KRs appended to it. Maybe there's some other aspects that, as a department, I can kind of support. So I asked that question to my marketing portfolio, to my goals analyst. It reviewed the input. And then what it did was it provided me an output. It went through a whole thinking process to understand what exactly is the request about, to look through. And then what it did was it went through its activity. It went ahead and gave itself some actionable items, and it actioned those items. And eventually, after maybe 5 minutes of thinking, it went ahead and created a plan and created me a very in-depth analysis on what needed to be done for this project, or for this view here, to say, as a marketing department, you need to support these specific KRs, what the coverage is currently looking like, where we have some insufficient coverage as well. So that's going to be the cool thing about teammates, is you simply assign it a piece of work and it will do all that analysis for you. And it helps covers those gaps that you may inherently have as a human. Cool. And that's basically everything I wanted to showcase today from the Asana platform. It's a very powerful tool, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this over back to Clayton now for questions.
Nice, mate. Thank you so much for that. Really insightful. To even take it all the way back up. Actually, I wanted to just mention something on this, on that image there. And yeah, I love how it shows that connection, and everyone can think a little bit about, sometimes how AI actually operates in the background. It's really these graphs and just like connecting all the work, and that's what allows it to really kind of pull all the data together, which is just awesome to see how Asana has really put that together. And also, not to mention those integrations at the bottom there, right? So just so much capability around integration, which I really love. And yeah, I guess already a question to you, Brandon. Do you see that with a lot of companies that you've worked with in terms of integrating and kind of using that towards also understanding progress towards their goals?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one thing to kind of talk through here as well is that although Asana can do all of this, end of the day, there's going to be other applications out there. So we don't try to consume and like build out all the capabilities to, let's say, what Jira would do or what Slack would do. Definitely not. I think software has its time and place for very specific workflows. And so what we do here is we just create strong integrations with those tools to kind of bring it into our platform, bring the data into our platform. For instance, the Jira integration here, we have a two-way sync with them to bring in over task and relevant boards into Asana so that the rest of the organization can work through, collaborate and work with those individuals. And we can also still input those departments' goals into Asana as well, because you would have seen earlier what I did was I did a manual update. Of course, if the information lives in Asana, it'd be much easier to update. But as long as we can transport the relevant information into Asana, it can still either be connected or we can just perform a manual update as needed. But I think it's just more about getting that broader reach and being able to update everyone in the organization or within the company. How are we progressing from a OKR perspective?
Amazing, man. So awesome. We've got two questions, and I also still have one more question. I'm so curious after I, kind of have seen what you have showed. So it kind of interlinks. So let's look at Raven Holloway's question, which is how is progress measured in Asana? Can you use a different metric per project team? So, for example, one team uses task completion, but another uses story points. And I've seen this in different applications as well, where you've got some teams that kind of estimate work and they use days, and then they actually even have time login, maybe some business unit, for whatever reason from a financial point of view. So really they're estimating in days, and then they're looking at actual time log. So there is an element of progress there, and others it's just tasks. But we always know the risk is maybe one task is as big as 20 tasks, that get completed. So what is offered from that perspective?
Yeah. So I think from a progression perspective, I'm just going to go ahead and jump back into the application.
Yeah.
From a progress perspective, we can easily define what progress is. So right now for this demonstration, I just defined it as completion of project would equate to us moving the manual needle from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2. But if we want to kind of be a bit more flexible with definition of success, we can also go ahead and edit the progress source and go ahead and say, rather than a manual definition of success, I want to tie it to specific projects. So if I tie it to project A, project B, project C, it'll ingest the entire completion rate of that project to say, as tasks are being marked as complete, automatically the goal progression is going to increase as well, so that you don't need to do those manual inputs. We can connect it at that project level as well to define only look at milestones or tasks, or even at that OKR level. So all the way at the top, we can say directly, update the goals progression level based off of the sub goals values as well, which then you'll be able to ingest like percentage, or from a numerical value, you can ingest like all like, what's it called? Currency or percent or number, etc.
Right. Awesome. And I know that something that is lacking in other applications I've seen, and I'd just like to know where Asana is with that at the moment, is in terms of KRs and real outcomes. Let's say a business wanted to increase their basket size by 10%, and the data is sitting elsewhere, but that's the metric, the actual outcome they want to achieve from this work. Are there data points available within Asana that we can actually update the real metric in terms of, so not having to go and look elsewhere and say, right, how far are we with this? We can actually pull that metric directly across and say, confidently, like this is the percentage in terms of a commercial value or a percentage.
Does that mean in that perspective, like being able to pull, just having secondary tool, gather that information and pull it into Asana? Yep.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, definitely. So we have integrations or Open API to kind of allow for you to kind of pull that information over from that secondary space and push it into Asana. So whether that be through your CRM or anything, as long as there is a connection that's available on their end, we can easily pull that and plug it into our goals component here as well.
Amazing. Okay, great. And then we've got one more question, which is cross relationships handled? So can you have, for example, one key result linked to multiple objectives?
Yes.
Cool.
So you'll see right here, if I were to go into this view here, you can have a parent goal here. So complete 5 high impact thought leadership projects can be a part of, I can connect it to multiple sub goals. So I can provide it multiple sub goals just like that. I'm just going to go quick. Oops, connect existing. So we can have 3 sub goals like that. Right. So going down, but even going up, I can easily add multiple parent goals as well here. Cool. This is going to mess up my demonstration instance here, but that's totally fine. But just really want to showcase to you that the work can be interconnected from the top and bottom. And that's the beauty of Asana. It's not just relevant to the goals component, but also portfolios can be part of multiple other portfolios as well. Projects can be in multiple other portfolios too. Tasks can be part of multiple projects. So that's what we call at Asana multi-homing. And because of the infrastructure that we built out with the work graph here, that ultimately allows for that type of flexibility.
Great. Awesome. Really cool. So I think that's all the questions. So Brandon, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate you walking us, kind of through Asana. And it was great to look how goals actually obviously travel from, that strategy all the way down to the task level and back up again. So to me, that is really what alignment looks like, where you can see what you're showing to us. In my opinion, it's built into the work, around how we do things, how strategy essentially is monitored in relation to the work. It's not something that you're doing the work every day and we're just kind of bolting on a status report at the end and trying to make something work for an executive or something like that. So really good to see. So for everyone that is on here today, if this sparked something for you while you were busy watching it, whether it's just a question about currently your setup, wanting to dig deeper into Asana goals, or you're even curious around a health check on your platform in your current environment, feel free to get in touch with Elegance Group. We'd love to dig into that with you and just see if we can help you out. And Ray is going to be reaching out to you guys after today's session just to connect and see if there's anything that we can that we can further help you with. So thank you very much for your time, Brandon, and for joining us. And thank you to everybody else for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you all soon.